I've initiated that, sir.
Chairman, sir?
Yeah, Kamuji.
Can we start? It's already 82 participants, 84 participants.
Yeah, we'll start at 4 p.m.
Okay, no problem.
It's at 57, so we'll still wait for
No,
3
no
minutes.
problem. 2-3 minutes more. No problem.
Yeah. So great to see all new coming members joining the webinar after a long holidays. We will
Yeah.
start exactly at 4 p.m. So let's await all the members
No
to
problem.
join.
By every second, one member is adding. It's now 87.
Just put the participant list. Give the participant list. Put participant. Click on participant.
नटराजा सर, सुदीप जी नमस्कार.
नमस्कार
सबको हैप्पी न्यू ईयर.
हैप्पी न्यू ईयर यार. हैप्पी.
सबको हैप्पी न्यू ईयर.
कौन सा वाला न्यू ईयर? ये जनवरी वाला?
नहीं, संवत न्यू ईयर, दिवाली के बाद का.
दिवाली वाला.
That way.
So 2079 is the year which is now going on. Vikram Samvat.
Good morning.
Morning, morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Pramod bhai.
Sir, AB sir, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Recording in progress.
We'll wait for 2-3 minutes. I think members are joining in. So next 2-3 minutes and then we start thereafter.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, good afternoon, Pramod ji. I have requested to start.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. A warm welcome to every participant and happy new year to you all. A warm welcome to Chairman Triple FI, Mr. Shankar Sinde, Chairman Elect Mr. Dushan Mulani, IPC Mr. Vijay Kumar, Secretary Mr. Vinod Sharma, all VCs of Triple FAI, all office bearers of Triple FAI, convener of Triple FAI of various committees, past chairman and coordinator Mr. Ramakrishnan, all Triple FAI board of advisors, distinguished guests, colleagues from my trade and fraternity. Above all, Triple FAI mentor Mr. Joshua Ebenzer will be addressing the subject webinar on assessment related challenges and particularly in classification and exemption notification. Mr. Joshua Ebenzer, a small introduction of Mr. Joshua Ebenzer, directs NUCOV Facilitate, a technology-based consulting firm advising on direct, indirect taxation, GST, custom, related service, specialize in drafting advanced ruling on BTI, BUI, and BOI in European Union and in India. He is well versed with EU and CCU, UCC, WTO, WCO frameworks, and Indian customs, SCZ laws, and allied laws, assisting in advisory and litigation matter for leading global MNC and Indian companies. His experience includes national level of position with DHL Global Forwarding, NYK Logistics, DB Schenker. He was also the Director of Customs and International Trade Advisory with Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan Attorney, a lead firm in India, more than 6 years. He is a WCO World Custom Organization Safe Efforts Convention speaker in 2018, 2019, 2021, and coming up in 2024. A member for CII Core Group on EODB, a member for CII South Region Subcommittee of Custom, a member of FIO Western Region Subcommittee on Customs, regularly delivers lectures at law college, universities, and association and institutions. Legal mentor for Triple FI, National Apex Body of Custom Brokers Association of India. Education qualification, MBA, SCM, M Division, PhD, BA, LLB. Friends, we all are aware faceless assessment is a major custom reform as seen in recent past from Government of India, where a bill of entry that is identified for scrutiny is assigned to an assessing officer who is physically located at customs station other than port of import. Friends, we all have many difficulties in faceless assessment of our import cargo with detailed query and scrutiny, and many of us face uniform query even after giving satisfactory reply at assessment level. Then also there is a multiple challenges at the time of examination of cargo. Without much taking time, I will request Sri Shankar Sinde and Mr. Mulani and other coordinator for giving detail on interactive webinar related to examination and assessments. Thank you.
Thank you, Pramod ji. Mr. Pramod Sunita ji, who has been the convener for our customs committee, and a good initiative by this customs committee and under the office bearer, Mr. Dushan Mulani, chairman elect. welcome you all for this important webinar. We also have other office bearers on this panelist, Mr. Vijay Kumar ji, immediate past chairman. We have Mr. Sudhir Agarwal ji, Mr. Vinod Sharma ji, and our vice chairman, Mr. Nataraj ji, Mr. Sudeep Dey, Mr. Sashidhar, uh, and Mr. Karthik Pancholi. Thanks for being here and preparing for this important event of this webinar. My dear friends, first of all, it has been a long time, long vacation, long Diwali, and hope you all have enjoyed Diwali vacation and good Diwali wishes and had a good, safe Diwali celebration. Wish you all a happy new year, and let's get back to our school to learn the various aspects which is very important for our industry. Dear members and the participants of this webinar, we all know that Mr. Joshua has been part of AAFA, who has been advising all our members regularly in some of the other way where the members face difficulties on the regular operations. He is expert in all the customs guidance to educate our members, and in today's webinar on HS classification, which has been organized, the topic may seem to be very simple, but it is a very important to build up our shipment process to make it seamless and move goods faster. There are various aspects to this HS classification where nowadays we face challenges that it is not only which leads to classification for only valuation purpose, but also the exemption notifications or even on the compliances of other institute like BIS. So we have to be very vigilant on classification matters so that we do not lose the time, the clearance time, because under the EODB, our performance, the custom broker performance is being monitored, and that affects our business also. So my dear friends, being this an important topic, if you are really interested and if you really want to know, I am pretty sure that this topic cannot be attended with your videos off or being offline and just keeping the monitors on and you doing your other works. So be attentive. It's a very precious time which you have been allotting to this webinar. So be attentive throughout the session. If you have any of the concerns, Mr. Joshua will take up all those questions, but not beyond the HS classification or the exemption as to what Mr. Joshua will be covering. If you have any other questions other than this HS classification related or beyond the scope of the webinar, the questions in the chat box are most welcome, or even the question and answer. We will surely like to answer it offline. So without taking much of a time, I would leave it to our chairman-elect, Mr. Dushyant Mulani, to introduce the theme and take it forward. Thanks a lot and welcome and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Shankar Bhai. The one condition what you rightly conveyed was specifically communicated to me by Mr. Joshua was that ask our members today to be in apt attention, because these are few words of wisdom today what he is going to share is really going to help all of us how to handle situation pertaining to classification, exemption notifications that we claim, and in case of rejection or dispute being raised or query being raised by officers, how do we address it? Because daily all of us are entire team of the office bearers, whether it's AAFI or the local association, each one of all presidents are also present here. We revert answer back to our clients, to our members and custom brokers, how to address a situation where they've filed a bill of entry, goes to FAG officer does not agree to classification, sometimes without raising a query raises the changes the classification or removes the exemption notification, either does not give chance for personal hearing, after query reply changes, assess the bill of entry is assessed at a higher rate of duty, and numerous such situations. The recent past couple of months that all across the country we've been encountering is objections being raised by docks and in the sheds, where the bill of entry is assessed by FIG officers, yet at the time of examination, there's a contrary view expressed by the field formations, and they send the bill of entry back to the assessment groups, where often it is subjected to adjudication, fine and levy of fine and penalty. Now, whether this is right on part of department or in such situation, what is the what are the provisions of Customs Act and other regulation that a custom broker and importer resort to? And finally, one thing which everybody would want to know, what is the custom broker's role in this? Because we find that sometimes brokers are also being made co-noticee in such classification disputes. So won't take much of your time. We have our expert in the field who knows pulse of our industry and fraternity. Over to you, Mr. Joshua, sir. We are all in apt attention to listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairman-elect Dushyant. Thank you so much for the initial address by Shankarji and all other office bearers. Every time when I get an invitation from your office to speak on a subject, I get really excited than any other forum. Because for any other forum, we can do sixer because they don't know. But here, you're all my learned friends. And it will be insulting if I go back to some basics for your intelligence. But I must make this submission very clearly. Today's session is going to be slightly on the higher level because of the confidence the audience who are attending are enlightened ones. With that hope, I would like to start in today's presentation in 3 buckets. The first one is the reality check by us and by the administrators. The second one is the concept. The third one is the procedure. Most of the things Mr. Dushyant Mulani addressed, it's a mix of concept and procedures. I watch news and I see today there are a lot of joint exercises being carried out by countries. There are times we all know these are the superpowers. They possess certain arsenals, which is unbeatable, and they can finish off countries like this in no minute. People make statements. Iran makes statements saying that we will wipe Israel from the map of the world in no minute. Countries just make statements like that. But when there is a reality check comes in, when there is a war, we know a battle, how long it is prolonged, and they're unable to finish the battle and how it is just taking a different form. And people are even today predicting whether this will become a world war. Countries started preparing themselves for a war. Now today, our industry, we're running, we had enormous achievements that we did this recently in the FFA conference. We could see how sacrificially customs brokers have done their work to the trade, how innovatively they have done, how they adapted to the changing environment. It's all so nice and amazing to hear. But whatever said and done, I cannot forget this one phrase from the book of Hosea. It says, my people are perished due to lack of knowledge. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge because they rejected knowledge, because they are super occupied in transactional related work, procedural related work. None of you in this customs broker fraternity from top to bottom would not have been here where you are today if you would not have spent those sleepless nights in reading. I'm sure everybody put on days together in reading, preparing, countering customs, handling importers. But it is a real time that we, the community, needs to check what is our understanding. I would like to see, for example, there are times Supreme Court gives judgment which is contrary to the practices of central excise. But none of the central excise officers bother to implement those judgments. Why? Rate of duty is common. Why do I bother? Whether I put it here or I put it there, rate of duty is same. There are times we relied on RMS. How? As long as I can able to get the shipment cleared, where is the question of me doing some deep diving and checking tariff level classifications? There are times I know personally for certain items, if you put it in certain subheadings, if RSP is demanded, importers and the brokers community, with the consent of certain officers, they said, okay, we will shift this tariff line to the next item just because to evade RSP. You know, all of you must have experienced this. From those level, today we have come to a stage where the precision, the accuracy, the data quality matters a lot. And for all of us across India, we have problem with customs. We have problem with the way that they behave. Am I there to go and counter him? Can I go and ask him? We do not have that confidence. Should I go to the court? I'm thinking, what will happen if I go to the court tomorrow? This officer will take revenge. Should I go and write a letter to commissioner? I am not confident whether I'm doing the right thing or not. So probably today morning, this evening, we should also think we are delving with something which was created at least a sizable years back. Maybe the year of 1950s, we got this CCC, BTN 1959, and the HSN, what we are talking about, pillar number 1 today, introduced or came into force from 1988. Just you do a simple math. Something got introduced in 1988, which all of us adopted, India adopted. Today we are in 2022. In these many years, we are following something. HSN, the predecessor was BTN. You know, somewhere, sometime back, some teams sat together. They developed something. We borrowed it and we did some kind of a fine tuning and we are riding on it. How do we handle this HSN? They have given you a small guide tool, I would say, rules for interpretation. With that, across the country as well as the globe today, litigations are scoring like anything. And the service providers invariably became a victim of these things and trying to balance between the trade and customs. At times it is really challenging. WCO also thought about it and they brought out something which some of you may be aware about it, called exploratory study project on HS. They also felt it is high time that we need to go to the stakeholders. 34 years we were running on a principle. We were running on certain settled law. Now there are technologies are changing. All of you are aware how in 2022, 300 plus new items have been added into the HS. So which means in the days to come, I forewarned you, there will be thousands of items. Now we can't be waiting for 5 years to get this HS amended. There should be a real-time mechanism HS committee or the advisory team needs to, the classification opinions from HS committee needs to be resolved in a very shorter time, because otherwise it will be prolonging into litigations. We never know where to classify and we pay higher rate of duty, capital. So many inconveniences are there. So the first time, this exploratory study team, there is no mandate available for this team. This team has been given 2 years of time. So they will go around to all the stakeholders across the member state. The beauty is this time they are going around not only to the stakeholders, they are reaching out to members. They are going to all the country sector specific experts, trade experts. They are going to collect all the information and they are going to possibly give suggestions, potential improvements for HS and its tools. When I say HS, all of you know, tools, its explanatory notes, as well as the compendium of classification opinions and alphabetical index. So these are known as WCO tools. So that itself is going under a review, which means after 2 years of their report, we are not sure whether we are going to follow this principle, this complicated HS principles, or we are going to have some kind of a easy way of, we never know that. Okay, we need to wait and see. Probably you can all put in your contribution there as well. All right. So since I said that we will move into our presentation today in the concepts. First one is concept. I usually ask for certain volunteers to support me so that we can go ahead with understanding certain concepts in a better way. But still, due to paucity of time and other things, I'm not going to ask any volunteers and I'm not going to harp on question answer interactive here. Probably we will try to define it in a different way. All right. So as I told you in the beginning, I'm not going to definitely insult you by asking some very basics and fundamental. Some of you maybe would have joined in the session for their benefit. All of you would have seen tariff. All of you are doing day in and day out what is in and out of tariff. You are completely aware. So with that confidence, I'm going to go into some kind of a concepts. All of you are aware about sections, everything, right? So we will start from rules for interpretation. So these are the aids for classification. Anyone who says that I am familiar with customs, obviously you know what is heading 4 digits, subheading 6 digits, and then you have tariff item. You also have section note, chapter notes, and all these things. There must be some confusion for some of you, maybe thinking, how do we know how many HS codes or numbers are there globally? In India, we follow 8 digit. In other countries, how many digits? Maybe just take the screen. What I have shown, it's a condensed one. How many tariff items are being used in different countries? What name that they have it? Okay, just at a glance, you can take a look at it. We are not going to talk about all these things. So we are focusing on India. In India, we harp on primarily our first schedule to Customs Tariff Act. Our first schedule contains the headings, subheadings, section notes, chapter notes, interpretative rules. Of course, everyone hands-on on HS and explanatory notes. Some of you even you read the classification opinions. So these are the aids for doing classification. There is one established rule, the first rule. Why do I say today officers are raising query? They are changing classification. Now, we as a customs broker, do we have the guts to go and stand before the officer and say, what you're doing is absolutely wrong? We are just waiting for him to complete the process and he does it on his own way of changing it, writing a notes. He doesn't pass speaking order. I'll come to that on the procedure part. I'll explain all those things in a little bit later. Now let's keep our focus over here. The titles, chapters and subchapters are provided only for reference. For legal purpose, classification shall be determined according to the terms of the heading and relative section note and chapter notes. So what we are trying to understand from this one rule, which was not very well taken by the trade. The so-called trade, when they read the rule, they ignore. They say, okay, isme kya hai? What is so special about it? So here what it calls for wisdom for each one of you to understand. The first part of the rule 1 is very clearly says simple English, everybody can understand, no problem. Which means any title, section, chapter notes, chapter headings are only provided for ease of reference. What do I mean by these headings? All of you are hands-on on your tariff. So you can see your tariff and you can see these are the headings, chapter headings. For example, blue color, edible fruit and nut peel of citrus fruit or melons. So these headings which is coming under chapter, this is not legal. It is not having any legal binding. This is only for your reference, where to check in. That's all I'm trying to say. Okay. So, but what you need to understand here, the second part of this rule, it says, provided such headings or notes, which headings? The section notes, the chapter notes, do not otherwise require according to the following provision. In some of the interactive session, I asked a question to some of them. They are unable to give a right answer. But of course, some of them could able to say. Majority of the people, they do not know what this one statement meant. What does mean? If you have direction given in chapter notes or section notes, please follow that and do not come to rules for interpretation. That's all. In other words, it's talking about. So as an expert, the rule 10D of CBLR, regulation 10D of CBLR demands you to be an expert, demands you to be like a consultant. So as an expert of this trade, the pillar 1 classification, which is the basic thing for any custom broker to be there in your fingertips. If our understanding is not clear on rule 1, probably we end up making time and again mistake. We see a product, we just jump into 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B, 3C, without even hesitating that rule 1 prohibits you not to come inside. So the crux what you need to take from here is rule 1 tells you, if I have directions in elsewhere, I should follow that only. If I do not have direction under chapter notes, section notes, or any other subchapters, any other headings, then only I should come here. That's the simple understanding. Okay. Now, one exception is also always there. For example, if you take note 1, usually it's an exclusionary note. All of you are aware about it. It says we'll lay down very specifically defined components can come down. Note 1, 29 chapter. So now here there is a note which says, even if it is a mixture, it can come under chapter 29. Very specifically, there is a direction given under the chapter notes, which means it is exception to note 1. Usually it will not be there, but this one chapter alone, you have an exception. In such case, usually brokers, we tend to make this mistake of taking your product. The moment you say there is a mixture, irrespective of note 3, you take it to 3827. That is where the officer is saying that you are doing a misdeclaration. And we are confused why these sections are invoked. Because he says that when you cannot come to 3B unless you have, if you do not have any direction elsewhere, then you come here. Otherwise, you don't come here because one is restricting you not to come inside. So that is what the second line says. Chapter notes requires you to stay in chapter 29 only. Unless the chapter notes does not require, otherwise you can go to 3B. And that too sequentially you need to follow. Okay, standalone rules are the last 2 rules and the remaining rules needs to be followed sequentially. Upholding this, Supreme Court also given a very clear view that rule 1 gives primacy to section notes and chapter notes along with the terms of heading. So which means you can read Simplex Mills Supreme Court to get a clarity how the courts are very clearly refraining customs officer. It was a clear violation of a central excise officer who made the mistake of jumping into rules for interpretation. So how Supreme Court tells him Please be mindful about it. Okay. So this is how you have to understand rule 1. So let me recap. Heading references. What are legal? Heading reference, section note, chapter note, subheading notes are legal. Now, another important thing which I'm trying to explain here. Globally, 6-digit classifications everybody will follow. Till subheading, everybody knows. You talk about a subheading, even in somebody sitting in another country will be able to relate to your subheading. But only in India, we have something known as supplementary notes. These supplementary notes will not be part of HSN. It will be only in Indian tariff. So which means if someone sitting in Asia Pacific office trying to do classification for India, probably they will be doomed. They will not be able to understand. They will say, globally, this is how we follow. Sorry, sir, but in India, you cannot follow that. Why? Because of supplementary notes, because of directive notes, because of conclusive notes. Some of you may be hearing these words for the first time. I have heard up to subheading notes. I have never heard this directive notes, conclusive notes. Are these your own phrases, or is it something they're existing? All right. So for example, I will just show you one, how a directive note looks like. If you see chapter notes, section 16, chapter 85, if you see the notes there, take printed circuits or integrated circuits. There it is telling if it is monolithic integrated circuit, where you need to classify. If it is hybrid integrated circuit, where you need to classify. If you get a directive like this in the notes, then these are known as directive notes, which means you cannot go beyond it. You cannot say, no, it is not actually conducive for me to use this directive notes or conclusive notes. I think, in my view, if I go to 3C of GAR, that gives primacy. That will be advantage for me to have a better rate of duty. Only in our country, when all of you know, heard my CV, right? I came from a service side. We were taught first to see, you all know what is Customs Tariff Act, which has first schedule. The first schedule has tariff. The column 4 contains rate of duty. I was taught, I'm sure all of you, we first look into column 4 next to UQC, we check what is the rate of duty. If rate of duty is low, then we try to fit in our classification according to that rate of duty. That is absolutely wrong. When you do classification, first forget about rate of duty, whether it is 100 or nil. That is not your criteria. First, you take the tariff, heading and subheadings and tariff items. Check where you can fit in, and then you look into rate of duty. So this is one reversal that you need to do when you do classification. So now you understood what is directive notes. Some of you may not have seen or you're not experienced. What is this subheading notes? This is how a subheading notes looks like. So under chapter 85, it talks about if there is a high-speed television camera, it will fall under here. So we have to diligently follow subheading notes. Okay, so just to give you an idea. What is supplementary notes, which I told you, this is only available in India, not available in HSN, not available anywhere outside. So I have put in a screenshot through which you can see how a subheading note looks like for the purpose of heading 8523. What is IT software? It is very clearly defining. So this subheading supplementary notes is very important for us to do classification. So it is not generally what thought process that we perceive. Google, shipper invoice, Karotar documents, or master tariff line items, whether it is checked or validated, that is not our concern. Importer needs to give us in writing, please classify these items under this heading. That is more than enough. We prepare a checklist, we send it to them. They have to say classification, okay, you are absolved from every liability. Main thing is, tomorrow if anybody comes in, mereko pata nahi, it was importer who has given it in writing, we wanted to declare if something tricky situation, you're not sure about whether to classify here or not, we go back and we ask our importer, give one letter. The importer will say, mereko draft de do. So we prepare a draft and we send it to them. That will be copy pasted in their letterhead. It is addressed to the deputy commissioner, and we have a satisfaction uploading that letter into e-Sanchit. Tomorrow, if anybody says the importer itself said why they are doing it, so please leave me alone. This is how the brokers are finding complacency in finding some shortcuts rather dealing with it. You need to put the case on the surgical table, and you need to take the knife and you need to dissect, and you need to see whether you are the customs officer. First of all, he can tell A, B, C, D. Forget about it. They need to pass the test of a customs broker. When you approve it, then it should go inside. So how do we come to that status? Of course, we have other dynamics compelling us. We may not have the time to do that. Shipments are landing 4 hours TAT. We have to clear the shipment, otherwise penalty will. All that is fine, but you have to find out, because you are in the knowledge segment. Having been in the knowledge segment, we can be in the KPO segment. We can never shy away from this primary responsibility to become like a broker. You give, I'll pass on. You give, I'll pass on. That is not what it is meant to be a customs broker. That we need to keep it in our mind. So I'll give you another example for you to understand. Now, all of you are aware, how do we classify Madras mixtures? Okay, Madras mixture, it's a combination of, today, the supplementary notes. I showed you supplementary note. How Government of India brought in a supplementary note, kept a full stop for all the confusions, because there could be opportunities to classify some of this product under chapter 19, ideally. Confectionaries, it will go to chapter 17. So 19 or 17, where do we classify? What did they do? They grouped all these items together, whether it is namkeen or bhujia or mixture, put everything under 2106/1999. Finished. See how subheading notes keeping a full stop for a lot of controversial classification issues. Okay, I'll show you some better way to understand this. All of you are familiar with chapter 48. Okay, so now here, paper and paper boards articles, what you see on the screen. Whether the whole idea is ATM receipt paper roll. I have a ATM paper roll. All of you are going to ATM counter and we get a receipt. When we go and take some cash, withdraw some cash, we get a receipt. Where do you classify this ATM receipt is the dispute. Whether to classify it under 48 or 49. Because ATM rolls will have some pre-printed, maybe it will have some bank name. So what it is getting printed after you withdraw the cash, only the balance amount or how much amount that you withdrawn. The confusion is whether to classify this under 48 or 49. Courts have decided to classify this under 49. Now comes the crux. The Government of India brought in something known as Note 12 to chapter note of chapter 48 of chapter 48 got a note 12. New note 12 was introduced. What do I call this? Directive or conclusive note. Here the government said, except what you read on the screen, except for the goods of heading so-and-so, cellulose, weighting and articles thereof, printed with motifs, character or pictorial representation, which are not merely to the primary use of the goods, fall under 49. Very clearly, everybody thought, okay, the matter is now like 2106. This matter also come to a rest. Everybody thought the matter is settled under 49. But now, what they did, they brought in a supplementary note. The supplementary, see, it is only for ATM paper, ATM receipt, only for that, how the changes are taking place. Earlier, we were not sure about 48 or 49. Note 12 came in and it says go to 49. Now, supplementary notes were introduced by Government of India, which says Note 12, notwithstanding anything contained in Note 12, if a paper of heading are printed with any character, logo, etc., it shall be remain classified under the respective heading. Dushan said at the beginning, please don't do multitasking. You will surely lose the crux, because I'm taking you to some place where you will see the treasure. To get to that place, certain basic understanding is inevitable. If you do not understand these small principles, and you will miss the Mechanis gold. So please support with me. stay focused. However important work, it can wait. Stay closely with me. Okay. ATM paper roll. Now there is a note 12 introduced. We thought that it is going to keep a full stop, but they did not because of the supplementary note. What does it mean? The important thing, what we need to understand here is wallpaper. I use this example in many places, wallpaper. In wallpaper, which you paste around your office or anywhere, there the printing is for beautification purpose. If you do any printing like flowers or anything, that is not primary purpose. The clarification issued by the government, it very clearly says, under the directive notes, it directs you to very clearly, it says, if the banks are printing something on the ATM paper, like logo, motto, everything, that is not final. What they are saying, the primary, secondary, distinguishing primary printing, secondary printing. One is pre-printed, one will get printed later. That is gone. If there is a subsequent printing is there, which means after I withdraw the cash, there is one more printing required to be done. Subsequent printing will force you to keep the entry back in 48. That is what the supplementary note says. So now what you need to understand, 4 years back, if your customers are importing this item, maybe the master checklist would have got some clarification. Dispute arose. Post introducing note 12, it is moving to chapter 49. Post introducing to supplementary notes, it's coming back to 48. So as a broker, how we are keeping a tab of all these updates relevant to the importers that you are dealing with. That is why I'm trying to explain this to you, saying that it's very important. Okay, some may ask from this call, is it possible once the court said something, you classify it here, can Government of India bring in a supplementary note and change the course? Yes, it is possible. Even Supreme Court has decided, go to 49. But these kind of supplementary notes, government has the power to amend. They will bring this, which is part of first schedule. So any amendment in first schedule, section notes, chapter notes, everything is possible by the government. All they will do is issue a notification in the interest of public. Maybe the bill will be passed in the during the budget time, and it will become an act, and then it will come in. It is not section 25 notification, which you need to keep in mind. Okay, so these are very important for you to understand. When I say aids for classification, it is not only explanatory notes. It is not only what you see the heading description. It is not only your chapter notes, not only your section note. It is also the directive notes, conclusive notes, subheading notes, and supplementary notes. To make these things clear, I took some examples to make it clear to all of you. I hope you're following me with this. Okay. So now I'm going to show you one product. I am displaying here an electric motor which is required for a washing machine. Question is, where do you classify? I have given you two options. One, you can put it in 85 chapter. Another one, you can put it in 8450. Where do you classify? There is a principle to classify. There is a principle to classify. See, if you are sitting in front of me, if I am asking, where do you classify electric motor? Half of the people would have said 8501, because there is a motor very specifically mentioned. Half of the people will say it is meant for washing machine. So 8540 would be the appropriate, because the parts will go there. Generally would have done. But that is not the way we should reason it out. How should we reason out? Where do we classify? It's a question. Now, immediately your mind would have come to a conclusion by now, or you would have been an expert in understanding it. That's fine. So let me just give you, because I told you in the beginning, it's a monologue session. Here, we are not going to have interactive session because you're all not sitting in front of me. So I need to communicate. So note 2 to section. I'm just tempted to ask a question back. Okay, because 84 and 85 comes under section 16. So section 16 has two chapters, 84 and 85. So note 2 to section 16 where it says, usually I told you note 1 is an exclusionary note. All these parts of general use are excluded. These are excluded. Note 2, that's why I started with note 2. It says, for the remaining items, where do you classify? How do we classify? You have to immediately see the note. Section note 2 to section 16. I have displayed it in front of you. So note 1 is an exclusion note. It says chapter 84 and 85, parts of machine, so on, so on, so are to be classified according to the rule. A, parts which are good, for your easy understanding, parts which are goods. Now here what you need to do, when you want to classify a motor, if you understand this principle clearly, you can classify any component, any part, irrespective of any chapter. So what we are learning is concept. I told you in the beginning, this is a concept session. We are refreshing our old knowledge. Why so many disputes are currently there in the courts? Because these classifications are not done using concepts. They just did it based on their own understanding. So here, there is only one rule. Whether you are in India or you go anywhere in the world, the same rule applies. Whether you do GST classification, the same rule applies. Okay, so pay attention. I had put in a word, the parts which are goods included in any of the heading 84 or 85, other than these parts heading, are to be classified in their respective heading. What does it mean? The moment I asked recently in a place, immediately everybody said respective heading means this is respective heading. Washing machine parts. So now you just see this after reading. What is respective heading? Many of them, 90% of them told me 8450 is the respective heading. So what here you need to understand very clearly, parts which are goods, take out the word goods from there. Replace it with motor. So now you read it. Parts which are motor, included in any of the heading 84 or 85. So where does this word motor, where does this nomenclature included? It is only included in 8501 only. So because of rule 2A, note 2A, parts which are motor included in chapter 85 or 84, but not in 84, it is included in 85. Because it is mentioned over there, are to be classified in their respective heading, meaning it will be classified, remain under 8501. I hope you're getting me. You can write it down. This principle, no one in the world will change. This will remain. This is how parts needs to be, parts for an item needs to be classified. Immediately, so many thoughts will be pumping in your mind. Oh, how that 90 chapter thing has happened, 85, how it happened. Wait, I'm not done. This is only one rule I have given you, an example. Okay. Now, 2A, all of you are clear. Okay. Motor itself good, which includes, so we need to classify where all types of motors. See, the one beauty here is, irrespective of end use, motor of washing machine, motor of fridge, motor of XYZ, all motors will have to be followed the same one thumb rule. If there is a specific heading with a nomenclature which itself says goods, then 2A will say classify it along with the respective heading other than whatever is mentioned over there within the bracket. Those are part setting. Okay. I hope if you're clear with me, then we can go to this is the first principle. Now question comes, other parts. I showed you washing machine. One is motor. What about the drum? What about the other cabinet? So we cannot, there is no classification in the tariff schedule where it is written drum, where it is written washing machine bin, washing machine A part, B part, nothing, right? So you have to go to the next note, that is note 2B. Note 2B. It is one note. I have split it for your easy reading and understanding. Okay. Now please read it with me. All of you are in mute. Please read it with me. Never think that you have 40 years of experience. Never think that you have You are the owner of some company, you have 100 people working under you, you have worked in classification for 20 years, maybe keep all the baggages down. It's just a refresher course. Think it in that way. It will give you a perspective. It will solve a lot of your problem. Okay. So rule 2B. Now what we said, what are you classified? For the remaining parts, where do you classify? For which we are moving note 2B. So note 2B says very clearly, other parts, if suitable for solely and principally. Is it? Yes, it is suitable for solely and principally purpose for the washing machine. If a kind which is used in number of machines, see some heading, there will be some parts which is solely or principally with a particular kind of machine or with a number of machine of the same heading. So then where do we classify? So what it says are to be classified with the machines of that kind. Easy way for you to understand with examples. Earth moving equipments. There are multiple earth moving equipments are there, like JCB, excavators, so many cranes. It has certain belt under to move it in all the surfaces. It has a iron belt. So now if you take that part, okay, the earth moving equipment part, we cannot say it is solely and principally only working for this particular machine only. Same part can be used in many other heading in a particular group. So that is known as a track. It will come in a running length. You can cut it and you can put it according to your earth moving equipment. So that will go under 8431. So the same way, take oil seals, rings. If this cannot be used not only in one item, it can be used in multiple items. So we are coming to that. So the first part in 2B, what you need to understand, if there is a earth moving equipment which requires a track, that same track can be used in multiple machine of that group, then you are to be classified with the machine of that kind, whatever is appropriate. However, if the parts which are suitable for principally with the goods of, very important, this is a new rule by itself. We cannot give a name to it. So you need to remember, if you have a part and that part is a part of either 8517 or 8525, 26, 27, 28. So 4 plus 1, 5. If these 5 headings parts, you don't need to think anything. Close your eyes and put it under 8517. That's all. That's all. No rule applicable. If parts imported for this 5 heading, close your eyes, just go to 8517. Now, in our case, even if you're not able to classify, then you go to C, note 2 to C. All other parts to be classified in parts heading. What is parts heading? 8409, which is a part heading for 8406 and 07 or 07 and 08 IC engines. So there are some tariff heading will also have a parts classification. There are some headings which is exclusive parts classification. So what you are seeing here is exclusive parts classification. You try to put those parts in the respective heading, even if you are not able to classify there, because your items are not able to fit in there. Then you have to ask only 2 questions. Very simple. Is it electrical? Put it under 8545. It is mechanical. Put it under 8487. Rule. Nobody can question you. So when you followed A, B, C, this is how to classify a part of a particular section. That is, we talked about 84 and 85. Commonly, everybody are using. So I've chosen that as an example for you to understand. Okay. So I don't have the time to ask you, have you understood? I'm sure you are following me and you're able to understand. All right. Now coming to classification of parts of bolts and nuts. All of you have a very, very clear idea. You will be saying, is this something worth for us to discuss? All of us know if there is a nut bolt comes 7318. Okay. Now cases are there. I will give you a understanding over here. Now, if you see, there is a classic case which I can where there is a you should also keep one thing in mind. AOAC can make mistakes. Supreme Court can make mistakes. Everyone can make mistakes, but they can make factual, circumstantial mistake. We can just simply sitting and say the judge doesn't know anything. No, that is a very dangerous statement. Not for anything else. because the judge knows everything. But what was presented before him, you see, it's a simple case. Somebody committed a murder. The police taking a lot of efforts and they're arresting it. And they are putting them behind the bar. We are thinking, whoa, this guy is going to serve life sentence. And suddenly one day you will see this person is out. He's on the road. He's acquitted. Then you will get upset against justice system. But if you go and understand what happened exactly, the prosecution side failed to produce a lot of evidences. The judge as a person knows he is a murderer, but he cannot convict that person unless there are evidences. So they missed out evidences. That is why he is now acquitted. You understand? That is how the law in our country is there. So likewise, you cannot say Supreme Court passed incorrect judgment because the judge doesn't understand anything. No, it is not the case like that. I will explain, for you also to understand. Now we are talking about how do we classify parts? How do we classify parts? The moment it comes parts, general parts, the word which we use called parts of general use, parts of general use. I'll give you a classic example. There is a judgment sometime back called GS Auto. The question is 7318 or 8708. The parts will be classified under 7318 bolts and nut, or it has to be classified as parts and accessories of motor vehicle. So section, what we have just seen, what you are seeing currently in the screen is section 15. What we have seen a while ago is section 16. So 84 and 86 are section 16, which means 86, 87, 88, all three will become section 17. Okay, so 87 chapter comes under section 17. So the section 17, there is an exception available. The GS Auto, you can read it by yourself to enjoy that judgment. The judge gave a verdict that these items will be classified as parts under 87, not under 7318. That was a verdict. Why? What happened? Because the Supreme Court understood parts of general use as general purpose parts. You can write it down in your notebook. Parts of general use, what you're seeing on the screen, was misunderstood by Supreme Court as general purpose part. What they said in nutshell, let's take example BMW. BMW are using, they are a luxury car manufacturer. They are using certain nuts and bolt, which are rust free. Okay, that is the only compliment that you can give it. These nuts are not normally available in the hardware shop. These nuts are only available in BMW spare part shop. So Supreme Court derived a distinction. The scope of terms parts of general use as general purpose part. So originally bolts and nuts only would be excluded from section 17. An item which is designed for use solely and principally with motor vehicle should never be excluded and should be classified as part of motor vehicle under 8708. This is what Supreme Court said. But why they did like that is the simple understanding. The judge got a feel parts of general use available in all the hardwares that will go under, that will get excluded, and it will go to chapters 15. But these very specific nut is general purpose parts not available elsewhere, and it will come here in 87. Today, you will be laughing. This judgment was passed in 2003. Imagine Supreme Court is giving a judgment in 2003 means the case would have started early 90s. Early 90s, central excise. Central excise regime was not aligned to HSN, number one. In those days, central excise officer had a practice of taking all the list of items and they will approve the classification. Once it is approved, that is final. Now, central excise officer itself, they have approved it under 73. Now they are contemplating only when there is a rate of duty changes, officers are allowed. So the judgment was released in 2003. Nobody bothers to implement the judgment. The second issue, why Supreme Court made that mistake? Because central excise tariff was not aligned with customs tariff, that is HSN. Customs tariff first schedule is HSN. Because it was not aligned, there are certain conditions. Any part needs to come inside 87 chapter, need to follow 3 tests. Some of you may be aware about this 3 tests. What are they? Number 1, I'll read it for you. They must be excluded by the terms of the head. Let me see whether there is, I'll come back to this. I'll first try to show you. Okay, no, I don't have it. So I'll just read it for you. All right. So I'm reading HSN. It is in HSN chapter 87, which was not available to the judges. And nobody, even the pleader, have not submitted this. So point number 1, even it is applicable today, so you can read. They must not be excluded by note 2 to section 17. So here, very clearly, any parts of general use are excluded. But here it says that should not be excluded. And the moment there is a word and, it has to be followed cumulatively. They must be suitable for use solely or principally with the articles of chapter 86, 87, or 88. In this test, it is passed. Yes, it can be worked solely and principally only with the BMW car. And they must not be more specifically included elsewhere in the nomenclature. Now, our part is very specifically nuts and bolts are mentioned in 7318, which means HSN test failed. Judge is not aware. So judge said 8708 is the correct heading. So there are times cases will be decided like this. So when a case is decided like this, 2003, this case came in. Nobody bothered. 2017, when GST implemented, all items falling under 8708 attracts 28%. DRI took hold of this. They said, sorry, we have to bring all this item based on the Supreme Court judgment into 8708. That is when all of you got rattled. Why suddenly DRI issued a notice like this to all the automobile companies? Now they are saying 4016 should go here, 73 go here, 3926 should go here. Then what is the purpose of all this note 2 to section 15? There was a big confusion created in 2017. That is because of GS Auto. Okay. So now, had it gone there, the problem would have solved. Saxby Westinghouse followed the same GS Auto and made the same mistake. You all aware about it, right? They took a relay of 85 to 36 and they classified it under 86 chapter using the same principle, same mistake. Parts of general use should be excluded. They have not excluded, and that's how this came in. So the Supreme Court influenced on 3 parameters. 1, HSN was not aligned, so they do not know the conditions. Number 2, they misunderstood parts of general use as parts, general purpose part. 3rd, they came very heavily upon the department. You, a central excise officer, you yourself accepted the classification. Now, where is the question of you disputing it? That is how this was there. Now I'll show you another best cross ruling, how globally things are being followed. Same bolt. Now here, if you see, this particular bolt is in this Honda is seeking for a cross ruling. It has a hole, it has a drill hole. So they say this bolt is not an ordinary bolt. Oil will pass through the bolt because it is used in some high-end cars. When the oil passing through the bolt to reduce heat by way of radiation, it is specially dedicated for this particular car. So Customs and Border Protection, they call it a CBP. They finally, to cut short the story, they gave a verdict. The highlight, what you can read on the red of oil bolt, Honda argued the classification should be under 8708 or 8714 as parts and accessories of motor vehicle. They also quoted the same section 15, what I have shown you in India. They quoted the same thing. And finally, the verdict in the last paragraph, the court said, does not generally make an exception for specialized parts of general use imported separately, meaning it should remain under 73 only. All right. So that is how bolts, nuts, parts can be classified. So this is a learning which you can see. Now coming back, we were in rule 1. The best rule case is Simplex Mills and Salora. Both of them are very clearly saying the primacy. Rule 1 gives primacy to section notes and chapter notes. So here there is no question of coming into rules for interpretation and trying to play anything. How much value chapter notes and section notes are playing. So each of you take down this important chapter note, section note, by heart it, apply your imported products in light of this, and you need to understand very clearly how your classification is sitting in your master list or in your checklist, under which principle it is sitting there. Write down in the column. You ask your team to find out and to put that. If you are not sure about it, spend some time and make sure that this classification is sitting under this particular heading because of this note, because of this section note, because of this rule. Unless you are sure about it, you cannot face the giant who raises queries to you now and then. When you are sure, it is a cakewalk for you to handle these kind of discussions. All right. All right. Now we'll go to next rule. Rule 2. Always you need to think rule 2. All right. Rule 2 has A and B. For your easy understanding, I am splitting rule 2A into two parts, part A and part B. Remember, those who are participating in the session, this is not seminar, this is workshop. So it will be like this. I have told you in the beginning, it is bit technical and your concentration 100% required. If you miss, you will not be able to enjoy the Mechanis Gold, where I'm taking you to the core. Okay. So these are the pathways to Mechanis Gold. All right. So those people who don't understand what is Mechanis Gold, it's a movie which came in early 70s. You can read it by yourself. All right. Rule 2A, I'm splitting this into two parts. Part A, what you're seeing. Any reference in heading to an article shall be taken into include a reference to that article incomplete. So what it says, if you are importing an incomplete or unfinished article, remember this two words, you can write it down in your diary, incomplete and unfinished. If this incomplete and unfinished article having an essential character, for example, a Formula 1 car met with an accident, the engine is removed, engine is scrapped. The car doesn't have engine. They're transporting to their headquarters. Now, where do you classify this Formula 1 car? It lacks the essential character, or it has. By virtue of looking into the car, you will say it is Formula 1 car. Only if they fit the engine back, it will run. So essential character is there, but it is incomplete. When it is incomplete, if the essential character is car, it will be regarded as car. Another example, castings. When you see an alloy, like crankshaft, if you see a crankshaft, it will be like this kind of a shape, completely rough forged. And you cannot bring a rough forged item and use it in an engine. So you'll have to do some machining to remove all the spurs which is there. So what it says, if you are importing a rough forged unfinished article, if it very important, if it undergoes a manufacturing operation to certain extent, that it can't be completed to anything other than the final product. Mark this word. It has undergone a manufacturing. What is that manufacturing operation? The fur removal. Okay, because it is unfinished, so we are just doing some machining work. This manufacturing operation to some extent, that it cannot be completed to do to anything other than, so which means we cannot make this crankshaft to anything else. I cannot make this as a camshaft. Crankshaft is a crankshaft. Either it is a crankshaft or it is a scrap. If I do a manufacturing also, if it still remains as crankshaft, then I will be classifying this crankshaft. So in customs, very important rule, often we get confused. Application or function is irrelevant for customs. Mark this word. Application or function is irrelevant. On the contrary, for excise had such requirement because it was not aligned with HSN. Under HSN, application and functions are irrelevant. So what we see from Rule 2A Part 1, if you import any article, whether it is incomplete or unfinished, as long as it has essential character of the finished product, it will be classified as finished product. Okay, now I'll go to Part 2, which means same rule, the remaining part of it. So here it says, I hope you're following me. Rule 2A, you can write it down and you say Part 1. unfinished, incomplete. As long as it has the essential character of the finished goods, it will be classified as finished goods. Okay. Rule 2A, part 1. Part 1 is for our understanding. Part 2. It should also be taken to include a reference that an article complete or finished. So what it says here, if it is unassembled or disassembled. Okay. I'll give you an example. This will help you to understand. Maruti car, completely imported, CKD condition. When Maruti came in 1984 or 83, I don't remember, during those days, from Japan. Let's put it like this. 2000 parts makes a Maruti car. 2000 parts makes a Maruti car. Now, when we import 2000 parts makes a Maruti car. When I'm importing 2000 parts in CKD condition, I have absolutely no problem. 2000 parts, if I come and assemble, it is CKD, absolutely. The benefit can be, CKD benefit can be taken. What if I import 1500 parts of 2000 and 500 parts I'm procuring locally here from India? Now, where will I classify? How will I classify? 1500 parts I'm importing. Can I apply the same rule? So if I assemble 1500 components, if I get the essential character of a final car, in spite of 500 parts I'm procuring locally, still it is a car. This is logic. But many have doubts in this principle. Many have doubts because it's highly debatable. How will we come to a conclusion saying that where the line of essential character is coming? So BMW got an advanced ruling early 2004 only on this context. I'm importing everything in CKD, but I don't have seat. Will you consider that CKD or a CBU? So they got a ruling in their favor as CKD. Ford faced similar issue in India. When Ford had the similar problem in Chennai, they went to one test. They directly went to the factory. It is very confusing. How do we know the items, the kit, what you imported is having essential character? So they said there should be some 6 components should be there. Then we agree. Engine, clutch assembly, gearbox, differential, chassis. If these components, there is I forgot the public notice issued by Chennai. Maybe when I'm sharing the presentation to all of you, I will try to share this. If these components are there, even one is missing, if gearbox is missing, then it is not a car. But if gearbox is missing, there is no seat, there is no wiring harness, there is no air condition, there is no window, nothing, no problem, still it chases. It is a car. Because of this essential character of the 6 parameters, it is to be deemed as car. Public notice issued. So there is no test which will prove this is essential character, except this one available in India, which talks about only for car in Chennai. Had it been for some other item, how will you do? It's highly debatable. Okay, so this is where rule 2A part B comes into play. Okay, so 2A part B, how do we understand? Car without tire. Is it still a car? Yes, it is a car because it is having an essential character. 2A, first part. The second part, assembled or disassembled. I've used bike here. It is completely in CKD. Even one part is missing. That's why I said the test of essential character cannot be brought in here. For car, it is settled. 6 are there, essential character met, it is car. But in cycle, we cannot say that one part is missing. So it is CKD. It is to be treated as the final product. So that is how you have to understand rule 2A. Okay. This is the rule 2. Now, case laws. For 2A, you can use these case laws, which I will be sharing in Palospan, which will give you a clear idea. Sony is another classic case by Supreme Court. Classic case for 2A. My goodness, it is, department was nailed by Supreme Court. You should read it and enjoy this, and how the supremacy of GAR 1 stops. You should read this to understand how the rule 2A comes into play. Okay. Okay. So Pioneer embroidery, this is another classic case by Supreme Court. Somebody imported 12 second-hand embroidery machine, and they imported 12 new jacquard, that is a controlling device. They brought both together. They purchased both from different supplier, put together for logistics purpose, and they brought it here. In India, for computerized embroidery machine, there is a duty concession. They invoked rule 2A and say, I am entitled to get the benefit. Please understand, you will face such problems. One thing what we need to understand, if it is only second-hand embroidery machine or only CNC machine, 2A you can apply. Because if it is incomplete, you can come and get the full benefit. Since it has come from two different people, Supreme Court said nothing doing because it's two different machines. So we cannot apply 2A. If it is one machine, we could have applied. So this is one classic Supreme Court case, which you can cite in whenever that you have any problem with customs also. Okay, there's a narration of the same judgment. Now goes to 2B. Okay. I'm again and again excited to ask a lot of questions, but I'm not able to do that. Still, I'll go ahead further. So 2B says, this is not a rule. All of you need to understand. This is only giving you direction. 2B is only giving you direction. So what does it say? Any reference to a heading, to a material substance shall be taken into reference. Meaning what it says is that even first you need to understand it is not a rule, it is only an instruction, number one. Okay. So number two, if you, and this rule can never go against the chapter notes and section notes, unless the section notes states specifically. For example, if you are importing copper, okay, copper by itself is not a metal, correct? Copper is an alloy. It has two metals, right? Bronze and tin, and bronze and lead. One is copper, one is bronze. Okay. So now, when you have, if the chapter note says only 100% this item, if it is restricts, then you cannot apply 2B. If chapter note specifically doesn't restricts, then by 2B, even if other materials are added to it, you can still consider that as that material. That is the understanding. How do you do it? So as I told you in the beginning, it's only an instruction to, if you have a mixture of things like that, please go to rule 3. So it is directing you. If you are having a problem like this, go to rule 3. So now the next rule is rule 3. So how do we understand? Here I'm showing you a display. Plastic, steel, both are there, 50-50%. Where do you, so what it says, if you have 50% steel, you can classify it under 7323. If you have 50% plastic, you can classify it under 3924. So in such case, 2B opens your mind to see, go to rule 3. That's all. So 2A is important, which I divided into two parts and I've explained. The next one is 2B. It is only directing you to go to next rule 3. All right. So now here, if you come here, the best understanding to see 2B, to remember, there was a case law called Innovation Foods. Kindly, I'll give you 30 seconds. Please read it. What I have imported is paneer darbari. Vegetable have predominantly 59%. Where do I classify? So 2B says, if your vegetable is more, 2B, read with 3B. So always you remember, because of 2B, I'm coming to 3. You cannot come directly to 3. So 2B is only giving you an approval. It's giving you a key. So anytime when there is a judgment, anytime you would have seen, if they are invoking 2B, read with 3B of interpreted rules, I am classifying it. So what is 3B? The predominant character here is vegetable. So classify it as vegetable. So when you need to ask a question, it is very tempting for you to jump to rule 3B or 3C or 3A, but you should not. First, you need to pass the test 1, then come to 2, 2A, then 2B. So 2B, read with 3B of the GIR. You will be able to classify these as predominant material is vegetable. All right. Now comes to rule 3A. Again, 3A by itself is not a rule, it's a directive. All of us very familiar with 3A, right? If I have, I don't want to go too technical. I'm just putting some screenshot over here. Where do you classify? Shaver, all men are using this. So 8509 says electromechanical appliances with self-contained motor. I can come here through 3B also, but I can also use 3A directly because specifically shavers are available. So whenever there is a specific heading, it will prevail over the general. Here the specific is prevailing, so I stay under 8510. So 3A, both can be applied at circumstances. By in the what you should take away from here is 3A, specifically is talking about shaver. So I'm classifying it under shaver. All right. There is a untold, this is something happened in this year, early this year. When there is a safety glass, toughened glass, where do you classify? It's a question. HSN before itself excluded this only if it is a frame, only the glass is fitted with the frame, it will stay under section 17. Section 17 means 86, 87 or 88. It is for aircraft, it could be for motor vehicle, anything, it will stay there. If it is pure glass, it will go to 70 chapter. So this is how you have to understand rule 3A. Now from January 2022, to give a legal backing, they included this entry into section notes also. All right. So to give you some kind of a better understanding, carpet made of jute. The predominant character is jute. So it will be 3B will be used and it will be classified. Supreme Court has said it in Chamband Industries. Then comes 3B. I'm going a little fast. I know that, but still the concept you need to understand. Here the jute having larger value, larger essential character. May the challenge is how do you come Paneer Darbari we saw 59%. Okay, so which means quantity is large. If quantity is large, value will become large. So that is how predominant character needs to be understood. So the same way here, jute 60% by weight, then you need to apply 3B because that is our essential character is meeting there. 3B is very easy. If you have a thali, you go to a thali. What is the best way to understand? Rice is the predominant character. Whatever the subjis are there, so rice is the predominant character. So put it under 1904. Another example is speedometer, a wall instrument cluster, whatever that we are using in our car. No, it has a speedometer, lot of other gauges, fuel gauge, RPM, timer, map, display, etc. Where do we classify? Ordinarily, these instrument clusters are having different dials. Okay. Now there is a client who claimed, don't want to disclose the client name, under excise. They said it's a component of motor vehicle component. Nothing to do with essential character. So 3B when they apply, speedometer takes a lot of space in the instrument cluster space. The value of also very high for speedometer, but DRA is saying no, put it under 87 and they're asking for 28%. Most of the OEM in the countries are now before various tribunal. We are waiting. In the meanwhile, WCO came out with a ruling. The PCBs which is to be used in the speedometer, where do we classify? So 1929, they came out with the opinion. So that is how 2A was used and that is how it has to be seen. Multimedia speakers. When this was there, customs issued a notice, circular. FM USB board circular came and said it has to be treated as FM radio because FM is the predominant character. But we said at that point in time it is speaker. Speaker is the large in volume, large in value, and people don't buy this for FM. People buy this for sound, speaker. So that essential feature is derived out of speaker. So it has to be classified under 3B based on the 3B as speaker 8580. Okay. Some of the case laws which I had given, you can read it by yourself. Then we'll go to 3C. If you cannot classify it under 3A and if you cannot classify it under 3B, where do you do it? You come to 3B, 3C. So what does 3 says? The heading which occurs numerically last has to be chosen. So there are a lot of examples are there, but still I'm just giving you this for your easy understanding. Mixtures of grains, all these grains put together, they give it for the children, kids and all. When you have this kind of 6 items are there put together, all have equal prominence. Where do you classify? So that is known, this rule is known as tiebreaker rule. The tiebreaker rule says whichever occurs at last has to be taken for classification purpose. So the last is here ragi. So you have to classify this at the last. This is known for you all. Now comes classic example is gift set. In 3C, if there are some gift set which you are giving, the best is I'll show you some example. When there is a packing material, anything comes along with camera, cases, fitted with cases, or if the cases are coming separately, I'll just show you that. So now rule 4, it's talking about akin principle. Goods which cannot be classified by any of the rules. So whichever the item which is very closest, you classify that. Okay. Mostly we try to close the items with rule 3 itself. Very rarely we come to rule 4. Okay. So the best example is spores. Spores means seeds. We have no classification. Where do we classify whether it has to be treated as plant related items? No, it is actually a bacterial culture. It's a microorganism. So where do you classify? So we proposed 3002 along with this human blood. Customs has accepted it. So that is how akin classification rule 4 works for you. This is where the important thing, many people may struggle to do classification. If you are importing a camera, gun, anything along with the packing material, you can directly put it along with that main item and you can clear it. But if you're specifically bringing this item, you have a specific heading 44, there you need to classify. But if item is silver tray, silver having more value, so that means where do you classify? That is very rare, this kind of examples and applications. So what you need to understand, packing material is to be classified. So what I have imported is cashew nuts, almonds, and silver is only just holding it. So no, you have to see which has the predominant essential character, and you have to classify those items accordingly. So here, what we need to see, the last one, rule 6. None of you in the call would never in your lifetime touched this rule, including me. There is no room for it, but at least for educational purpose, for some good reason, you should know what is this rule about. Rule 6 is a single point to determine subheading level classification. All this rule 1 to rule 5, what we have seen now, are for headings. This is the only one rule which is there for subheading level. So GIR 1 saying you check the heading description. Likewise, here rule 6 is asking you to check the subheading description. See, there are some subheadings will have subheading notes. Okay, so apply that subheading notes and you classify it, there is no problem. But when there are two subheadings equally applicable, what will you do? Then you usually use 3B, which is having the essential character, and you will classify. But when rule 6 is saying you cannot do the same thing at subheading level, the important thing is subheadings are at the same level you need to compare. Meaning, if 1 dash, so you take subheadings levels are obviously, let's say 2 dash. Okay, so if their single dash needs to be compared with another heading of a single dash, 2 dash needs to be compared with another heading of 2 dash. You cannot have a single dash compared with another subheading of different head. The question will never come because double dash, see, I will tell you honestly when this will be used. When there is a subheading notes which is given to interpret and understanding that subheading notes, you can refer to the same dash level in another heading. Because usually when you try to do a classification, if you have two such headings, obviously in heading level itself, whichever comes later, 3C you will apply and you will go there. When you are closing it in 3C itself, you will never come to rule 3.6 except this one area, or whenever there is a subheading notes. That's all. It's okay. So in the last 40 years, I've never seen one time applying rule 6. All right. So these are the important things on the classification part I wanted to share it with you. So which I have quickly gone ahead and shared it with you. Now we can move to the next level. 1.5 hours I asked for it and I finished it at 1.5 hours. Maybe I will ask Shankar ji or Dushan ji now. Should we take questions from the audience, or would you like to post some questions, whatever you have asked me a while ago? I should start giving some answers.
Yes, thank you, Joshua. One request, we'll ask all the members who are attending here, they can post their questions in the Q&A box. One by one, they would be surely addressed by the team. Mr. Nataraja, is also here. He will help us to moderate them. And
Display the question.
in the meanwhile, Mr. Joshua, you are aware about the real
Challenges.
situations which is faced by our members.
All right. Okay.
Maybe you can start on that. By the time we get question posted on our Q&A box, and we'll start with them.
Wonderful. We'll do that, sir. Okay, so the perennial problem what we are facing currently is customs, managing custom. Okay, before I move in, whatever I've talked about this, most of you are familiar. Some of you would have brushed it up, but just take notes of it and read the case laws. That will be helpful. All right. Now coming back to one by one, we will address. I filed a bill of entry, and officer from FAG. Okay. They are PAG pushing to FAG, and FAG is changing it and creating all this facts which was explained to us by Dushyant. All right. How do we handle such situation? Now, there are some guidance. There are some case laws are also available. What you can use it. Maybe I will just show something in the screen itself. We can go one by one. Scenario 1. I filed a bill of entry knowing that the classification is correct. But customs officer, on his own understanding, changed the classification. Common problem for everybody. Now, we have very clear mandate from the law. You can change the classification, no problem. You can reassess, you can remove the exemption notification. But you have to give a speaking order to us. Everybody knows about it. But the problem here is speaking orders are not being issued. Why? So here I wanted to show some of the information to you. So this might be helpful when you draft letter to handle customs. I'm showing one standing order. Okay. Need for issuing speaking order. Before going into speaking order, what are the options in general available for me? Now, I am an importer. My goods having heavy demurrage. I never anticipated my goods will be queried like this. Of course, queried. I thought PAG will resolve the query, but somehow PAG sent it FAG. Now it becomes a fashion. Any bill which comes from PAG with a note to FAG, straight adjudication. It becomes a fashion. Now, what as a customs broker that we have option, what as an importer we have an option. Now, if you as a broker, now I'm talking from broker point of view, then we'll go to importer's point of view. If you as a broker, if you are convinced about your classification, because most of the time we put a classification, we ourselves not sure, because our whole idea is we are banking on one thing. Importer said he gave it in writing, so I'm following the classification. And all big people, they say, I have not seen in detail. Big people means the owners. We rely on middle managers or juniors. And all we wanted one thing, sir, I've been importing the same classification in the last also. This is what is mentioned in the invoice. This is what there in Karotar. You clear it. This is what party has given a declaration. Now we should stop approaching like this and take this first approach without going and irritating this officer saying, issue a speaking order. I will take it up. It costs. Issue a show cause notice. I will take it up. It costs. Not you, importer. There are cases, if you go and sit with this officer and go with the case laws, go with the principles of classification and reason it out with them as a broker, one sitting is enough. It is not official PH. It is nothing. You just go there. He may have any agenda. Talk to him. There is first step is there is a possibility he will ask you to give it to you in writing and he will accept it. Because if you submit, officer is also of the view now, they don't want to fiddle with knowledgeable people. So if we portray ourselves as a knowledgeable community of taking relevant case laws and putting a humble request to him by writing a letter on your own letterhead, like Samir Shah said last time, not importer's letterhead, on the custom broker letter itself. Fantastic. That confidence, if you have, you write it and you submit it. Things will get resolved. Now, if he says no, what are the options available? One, you clear it under protest, pay the differential duty, and ask for a speaking order. 17.5 gives you the right to ask for a speaking order. If you assume, even without speaking order with the bill of entry, that I will be able to go to Commissioner Appeals, many cases are sent back. So speaking order is inevitable. It is also there in their customs instruction. Okay. So if you read instruction 7 of 2018, instruction 7 of 2018, para 2, very clearly it says, it has been observed that officers exercising the power under the above subsection are not issuing speaking order in each and every case, particularly where the importer and exporter, as the case may be, does not confirm his acceptance of reassessment. First point, this is not my word, it is board's instruction. They themselves saying it may be appreciated that an importer or an exporter has an inalienable right to know the reason for loading the value. Number 2, change of classification or any decision regarding entitlement to exemption notification, etc. So omission to issue speaking order in matters of reassessment may not be affect the right of the importer or exporter. Nevertheless, deprives him of knowing the ground of reassessment. At the same time, any reassessment without the support of speaking order could be perceived as legally questionable. Time and again, courts have frowned upon instances of non-issuance of speaking order under the said subsection. Now, okay. In real time, if you know this instruction, practically the officer is not giving a speaking order. Now, especially in faceless. Now, I am talking about 2018. So this is some of you may say, okay, Joshua, that is 2018. Now today we are in faceless regime. Okay, I'm now giving you a board circular 9 of 2020, All India rollout of faceless assessment, paragraph 5.4. Faceless speaking order. For any reassessment done by faceless assessment group, which is on variance of self-assessment done by importer, they have to issue a speaking order. Now, speaking order is your right, importer's right. You need to know what generally the officers are thinking, that when I reply a query, when they reply a query, this is what their observation. You know what the officers are saying? No speaking order is passed on the pretext, the reason reassessment are already conveyed to the importer exporter in the form of query, and suitable reply has been submitted by importer and exporter. This is the one justification customs officers are having. So what we need to ask first is speaking order. Now, how do I get a speaking order? I am dealing with a case which is little away from Mumbai. I cannot travel every time. So what I did, sir, first you clear your shipment under protest. 15 days they need to give speaking order, they don't give. Tirelessly, every Monday I submit a reminder. Every Monday I submit a reminder. 3 reminders I submitted. 4th, I invoked a RTI. Nothing I have done. Just went and paid 10 rupees. What happened to my speaking order? Give me it. I uploaded that and I asked for a reason. When we asked for it, immediately within 1 week, I got a response from the officer saying that come for a PH. Okay. So speaking order is very important. Now there are counts. You clear a shipment in January, you have limitation of 90 days. If you keep on harping on that without taking any steps, tomorrow the department will say limitation, you cannot appeal also further. So there is a possibility in this country, if you go on appeal, it will take 4 years, 5 years. Choose live appeal. Bond the goods. Goods are not cleared from customs. Before clearance, there is an option to file live appeal, educate your importer. When it is live appeal, you see everybody needs to act on it fast. Even commissioner will push it fast. Decisions will be made faster. Not you following up. Even in spite of live appeal, cases are pending for 6 months, 8 months. That is a different story. But if there are no action on live appeal, you need to immediately seek a writ petition and ask the court to direct them to take immediate action. The advantage of live appeal, you will get early hearing. You can quickly get your matter heard, and even tribunal also will hear it faster. So this is live appeal. Second one is protest assessment. The third one is section 18. You give a PD bond and you can clear the shipment with or without bank guarantee based on the status. That is one of the way to clear the shipment. And the fourth one is you go and sit and you explain and you handle the matter. Okay. So these are the options which are available. There is no one thumb rule. Dynamics will change. If the cargo weight is high, you have to take a different call. If the cargo line stoppage situations are there, you have to take a different call. So brokers will have to exercise their presence of mind and take the appropriate method in such situations, sir. Okay, so this is one of the way for us to handle speaking order or any reassessment when it happens. Because one fundamental thing that what we need to understand, classification on their own, they cannot change. Value, when we do a valuation session, I'll talk about it. When he wants to add value, when he wants to pull out that exemption, remove the exemption, you can see Jain Engineering very clearly says that Supreme Court, you cannot pull out exemption notifications on the pretext of the words are not matching. You have these kind of options are available where you have to reiterate the appropriate option and take it forward. So this is on handling queries. Okay, any other specific queries, sir?
Yes, sir. My question answer box, there are 9 questions are come.
Okay.
Can we go through?
Yeah, please, sir.
Yes, sir. The first question from Sanjay Kogre. In case of conflict between Section 19 of Customs Act 1962 and GRI 3, who wins?
We cannot give a direct answer who wins between these two. You have to see the facts and then only we can comment. That in a public forum like this, we cannot say who wins. Yeah, next question.
Nataraja sir, what we'll do, we know the situations by and large, how these questions relate to a custom broker. So a situation typically from custom broker's point of view, that there is a dispute in classification. Department A does not issue a speaking order, which you conveyed that how you can address the situation. But what to do when there is a situation when a custom broker is made accountable for a classification change which has happened, done by the department. It is an interpretative dispute, and they have also, along with importer, made custom broker a co-notice and conveyed that. So we want some guidance for our members out here that when department takes a stand that an interpretative dispute of classification or claiming of exemption notification translates into investigative issue or they adjudicate the issue, how to handle such situations. Nataraja sir, I hope that's what our members are looking at here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Natarajan sir, see what we will do is I'm also able to see the questions posted by Sanjay and other people. Okay.
Yeah.
See, we can take one questions here. There are some questions which we can give, which is related to this, and there are some questions like they are asking specific. Where do we classify when there is thing? So those things we can defer it and we'll repeat it back to them. Okay. So
Q&A box in front of you. Please go ahead, sir.
So one person is asking, is there a book of rules of classification and general interpretation of tariff, etc. available? I'm sure he is not a custom broker. If it is a custom broker, he would not have asked the question. Yes, there is a classification is done by the customs tariff. You can buy the customs tariff. Rules of interpretation is also there, so you can follow that one. Can one chemical product be classified under two HSN code if the customer demands from two different country? Again, see, you can't be asking a question like this. I will not be able to answer. So first I need to ask, what is the chemical product? What are the composition? So that's why, Rupali, I cannot give you a direct answer like this. But if you can write it back to me saying that, okay, these are the MSDS, and definitely I'll be able to consider that. The exhibit material can be shared with, okay, done. Okay, Rajendra. Import pump for dispensing fuel, although the CTH 8413 we put under 8503 taking advantage of note 2B, but customs refused duty under protest. Your advice, please. This is a very good question which we need to take. Okay, now see, why do you protest? Many people do not know. They thought protest is by way of anytime when there is a classification, protest will only help. The word protest is not defined in Customs Act, which you need to understand. One, protest only helps you in one thing. If there is a decision taken by Supreme Court or any other court on a later date, the limitation will not apply. Okay, protest is only for that reason. For no other reason, protest is useful. Now here the question is, customs refusing, there is no such option available to them because they say that it is final, which means what you should do is, if they are assessing, you assess the bill of entry and they are reassessing the bill of entry. The moment they reassess, 17.5 kicks in. Where is the question of protest? You don't mix with protest. What is required for you is a speaking order. You take the speaking order and you go for an appeal. That's it. Let's go. Next question. Anonymous, can I consult concept? I have doubts. Yes, you can consult. Arun, item imported with an animatronic dinosaur for display in the theme park. We had classified under 96. The HS notes and CTH mention animated display shop window dressing, though the item imported was for theme park and not for window dressing. We had classified in 96. General rules of interpretation 4, not most akin to. However, customs classified under 9508 as fairground amusement, okay, which is the correct heading. Fine. So again, it is a personal comment which we need to make. Share the documents. Surely you will get a response in 48 hours. Next, sir, when we ask for speaking order to officer, they are saying that only we reply to query. It is good as we accept valuation. How to deal with the practice? Okay, so I will forward standing order number 9/2021. This was issued by Rajesh Jindal. So he was a principal chief commissioner, and you can take some clue from here. Exactly in para 2, he is saying no speaking order is passed for reassessment are already conveyed to importer exporter in the form of query. So the answer is, you take down this instruction 7 of 2018 para 2 and 9 of 2020 board circular para 5.4. Along with 17.5, you must ask for it and you will get it. Okay, ask your custom broker, or if you are a custom broker itself, you can write it down and you can move on. Anonymous attendee, what should the importer do when the officer does not give a speaking order to the importer? Change of classification leads to goods, leading to release of bond and wages. So here the dynamics. Now it is all, when you wanted to go on live appeal, you should have that luxury, or clear the goods, pay the duty difference, and if possible protest it because there is an implication on limitation, and then you take the speaking order and you go for an appeal. You don't want to go through that way. Under 18, you clear it with the bond and bank guarantee, and later on you fulfill whatever the pending documentation that needs to be convincing him, especially in the Carota regime. This is very much prevalent. Department is doing that. So when Carota is a different concept altogether. Why they are doing it? Why? Because of 28 DA empowerment, where they say the Customs Act is giving them something. If the officer having any suspicion, doubtful, they are invoking that to their advantage, saying that inconsistencies are there. Even, for example, there is a material which is coming from a country, and in the column you are writing non-originating, because that material by itself you cannot directly use it. It has to undergo certain process. The moment you kick in process, RVC comes into play, regional value content. When the regional value content is coming into play, 99%, then obviously in that column, what you will write? Originated or non-originated? You will say non-originated only. Because if you say originated, then you cannot follow the process of RVC. So if you say or non-originated, the officer is saying it's inconsistent. And he will say, I will send it to DIC, clear the shipment through 18 by giving a PD bond and thing. So that is a strategy which they are using it. 6 months down the line, they will say, DIC, we didn't get an answer. We are encashing your bank guarantee. So rather you try to get these things ironed out. When we talk about origin related issues, we will address that. So mainly this kind of issues are being faced currently, bond and bank guarantee provisional clearances in Carota related matter. Next question. Sir, in case of 17.5 shall be assessed final or provisional? Sir, 17.5 with its option. Question is little tricky. 17.5 is saying that officer is, you are assessing the bill of entry, self-assessment regime. Officer touches, it is reassessment. So reassessment may, he will do two things. If it is bona fide, he will reassess and release the goods. If it is non-bona fide, if he finds any mala-fide interest, he will put some penalty and he will issue an order within 15 days. So 17.5 per se, it is not provisional, it's final assessment. If he touches, final. Then again there, whether provisional or final depends on Carota, like what example I've given, or if there are any test result pending or any other various circumstances. Next. Sir, is there any specific provision for time limit for customs to review a live appeal case? Okay, very classic case. That is what I said. I have seen a live appeal which has crossed more than 5 months, 6 months also till now. Live appeal, the whole underlying principle for a live appeal is to expedite the normal litigation process. Which are the steps when you take a speaking order? Definitely you need a speaking order. Even otherwise, if you go to commissioner, commissioner will say, I need a speaking order. So we go to commissioner appeals, we file and we go and put an early hearing application and we say, sir, live, immediate priority is given only for that reason. So, but still you need to follow the limitation period. And then if commissioner appeals is ruling against you, you do the pre-deposit and go to tribunal. And you can put a EH and telling that it is early hearing and it is live file. So priority will be given by registry only for that reason. So other limitations statutorily will be applicable. What is the procedure to clear under protest? What is the procedure to clear under protest? Protest is nothing but, as I told you, you make a simple declaration saying that I'm not in agreement to your assessment. I'm protesting your assessment. Okay, that's what I said. Protest doesn't have a legal word except that word protest is there in Stamp Duty Act. Other than that, only for Section 27 refund, it will be helping you without kicking in the limitation. The procedure is, the letter needs to be accepted and a number will be given. Make sure that the number is incorporated in the TR6 and bill of entry. HS code 6304, crochet and knitted made up embroidery were added in 2012 DP benefit. Question not clear. In officer, if officer insists for final assessment, can we go for appeal later on? Officer insists for final assessment, which means he is saying you are insisting for provisional. He is insisting for final assessment. No, I don't want to take provisional. Can we go for appeal? Yes, you do the final assessment and you take it immediately to appeal within 60 days, extended period of 30 days more. CKD and SKD is applicable only for automobile or can be applied for all item and multiple parts. Okay, functional. Sir, the word CKD, SKD, it's all not defined anywhere. Okay, it is only to identify, if you complete any part, you watch has 10 parts. 10 parts is broken down into 10 different items and it is packed together. It is known as CKD. If it is coming in assembly, sub-assembly level, it is known as SKD. It is coming in full, it is known as CBU. Primarily, it is used for automobile to identify it easily. You can use this terminology for any other things. Next, the scheme code, scheme closed in 2015, but the exporter shipping embroidered article, the same heading is not withdrawn officially date. Not able to understand this. Next, SAB finalizes a chapter for a product, but group is not accepting it or notice served from RMS team. We follow SAB instruction only. When chapters are finalized based on case-to-case issue, can't the custom share the info to tariff department or further guidance for the trade? See, boss, though Jeevanandam, your question is not very clear to me, but still what I understand is this: SAB says A, group says B. So SAB finalized a chapter for a product. Look, the proper officer here in this case is the group officer who is assessing the bill of entry. SAB is an ancillary investigation department like PCA, SAB, TRA are all out. They are not proper officer as of today also for the purpose of act, even though they have amended. That is to give effect because of Canon Limited for the past clearances. Now because of 110 AA, still the officer who is assessing the bill of entry is the proper officer. For the purpose, the proper officer will take a final decision. So SAB can give, it's such an influencing factor. They can give recommendary. That's it. Next, Amit. If importer CB is not satisfied with the reassessment by the department and wishes to go for appeal, shall B be assessed provisionally or finally? Sir, why do we resort for provisional assessment? Number one, you need time to give some test result. Okay, sir, it might take some time, clear it under provisional. Why do some documents are pending? If I give the document, you will be able to justify your claim. You will be able to do it. But here, no such pending production of no information. It is only rate of duty. Now, if you execute a provisional bond, for what you are executing? Are you writing to the board if you are making a representation normally for example, multifunction printer, when HP imported it, HP cleared it under 8471, zero duty. Xerox imported, they cleared it under photocopier machine in 90 chapter. Because it is identical goods having multifunction printers for printing, photocopier, scanning, customs called HP and said, see, when Xerox was clearing it under 90 chapter and paying duty, you also clear it. What did they do? HP said nothing doing. I am a printer company. I will classify it under only 8471 and I will clear it only here. That time, it is a classification dispute. So customs said you invoke 3B and put it the item which occurs last. HP says nothing doing. Whatever rule it is, my item what I imported is an output unit. It is a printer. It is deemed for 84 chapter zero duty benefit. What did they do? They escalated the matter to commissioner conference. If your case, if you're escalating the matter to commissioner's conference for further escalation decision, then you can resort for provisional clearance. Because why should I keep it provisionally? Something has to happen. You can say that I have already written to the board. Board is taking this matter and referring to HS committee. So pending decision of classification opinion by HS committee, kindly clear my shipments provisionally. Yes, you are eligible. Yes, you are 100% eligible. Supreme Court has clarified this time and again. So that is this. If no resorts are there, simply you go and say, I'm not in acceptance for the reassessment, clear it under provisional. No officer will accept it, sir. Okay. I hope that is clear. Anonymous. Can an officer post query? Dushyant, can we also answer anonymous questions also? Anonymous people?
No.
Oh, right.
I
Okay.
think only when which are specifically of our members.
All right. Okay. Amit, sir, under chapter 8711, which includes electric vehicles, there is a different HSN for motorcycle, scooter, mopeds. However, under chapter 8714, for parts of this vehicle, the HSN motorcycle mopeds, but has no HSN parts of scooters, how to deal with it? Amit, interesting question. Deal with me. There is a lot history behind it. I will explain this to you. Write to me. Surely I will assist you. Next. FAGB, Sanjay is asking faceless assessment group. PAG is port assessment group. Yes. Next.
Some more in the chat box, sir.
Oh, chat box is also there. Okay.
I think
Some more in the
So,
chat box.
what we will do, I will take all the chat box. You will be, as usual, you're giving. We will respond to all the questions, whichever is deemed to be giving an answer. We will definitely give an answer. All right, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Joshua, I think Mr. Sudeep Dev wanted to say something. Sudeep ji,
Sure. Please, sir.
I just wanted to say this. Do we have time? Dushyant, do we have time?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, what I have come across is most of our members, while they are classifying the goods, particular goods, they usually resort to the others category. अरे इसका कुछ मिलता नहीं, others में डाल दो. Now, under a certain heading, there are 3 or 4 others category. And next to the description, there are small dashes. Everyone I have come across, including some officers, do not know the significance of those dashes, 1 dash, 2 dash, 3 dash. Are you with me, sir? Yeah. So maybe you could spend, I thought, a little bit time on explaining to the attendees the significance of those dashes.
All right, sir. Very good question. I will show something in the screen for everyone to understand.
So, yeah, go ahead, Joshua, sir.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to share one screen here. Maybe that will help some of the audience too. Sudeep ji,
Yeah, I'm here.
you're able to see my screen?
Yes.
All right, okay. Now, I had put in 4 different, it's in the Q&A type. It was available, so I just posted it here. You can read the correct answer is A. Okay, the correct answer is A. So basically how you need to understand is the description of an article or group of articles shall be taken to be subclassification of immediately preceding description of the article of group of articles which has dash. So how do we understand? I will go back to my presentation. Okay, I'll go in the presentation itself. You are able to see my screen, sir? The presentation.
Visible.
Visible now, the presentation screen. Okay, now if you see here, all right, tariff lines. I have shown you tariff lines. In the tariff line, the dashes are mentioned here. So I can, the first line is mangoes and mangosteens.
No, we're not seeing that screen. We're not seeing that screen.
Oh, you're not able to see the screen? Okay. All right. So now let's go on from the subheading level itself. Okay. So here 0804, which is a heading. 4 digits are heading. So when there is a subheading, in subheading we have dates, figs, pineapples, avocados, and goas. Now I am taking one subheading to the next slide. One subheading to the next slide. That is 0804 50 alone. I'm taking it. Okay. So 50. So this 1 dash having 2 dash, that 2 dash tariff item says goas, fresh or dried mango. Then under which you have mangoes fresh. So now, if my mango is further coming under 3 dash as Kesar, and then there is a other. Now this other is having 3 dash under which I have mango, mango pulp, and other. Now there are 2 others are there. Your question is exactly there are 2 others. One is having 3 dash, one is having 4 dash, or one is having 2 dash, another one is 3 dash. So where do you classify? So the point is this other is only for those not specified, and 29 is for the entire 2 dash. 29 is for goas, fresh, dried, entire 2 dash ka family mein. If you are not having anything like Alfonsa, Banganapalli, then you can put it in that other. So in the other category, if you are putting a mango, on that other category mein, if there are some subheadings are there under that family, that is like father having children, and the child is having some children, then it will only come under that below. So now you go back to the definition of what I have shown you a while ago. The description of an article or a group of article shall be taken to be subclassification of immediately preceding the description of an article of a group. So from a subheading level, you cannot jump from without bypassing that second dash, you cannot go to the next one. So it will be like immediately preceding. So which means 5010 will be immediately preceding with these following others, not 5090. That is the understanding, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here, I think for custom brokers, what matters a lot today, what emerges out here, fortify ourselves by taking, not only approving checklist with your importer, but whenever you are claiming a classification and an exemption notification where there is duty benefit or lesser duty, let us ensure that we take their write-up, catalog, literature, carry out e-sanchit at the time of submission of the documents. So that is going to save us from any further action. That will also help the importer a lot when there is any dispute for classification or any contrary claim towards exemption notification claim. These are safety measures. Slight increased effort from a custom broker side, maybe to displeasure of importer or exporter, but please ensure that this is done, carry out e-Sanchay. That will help a lot to deal with such situation of during disputes. Yeah, Joshua.
All right. So my final thoughts to those people who are staying back here is, as usual, that I used to say that knowledge, Rome cannot be built on a single day. I sailed in the same way, thinking that we are well equipped, but it requires a lot of in-depth, sincere efforts. So form as a group in your company and read this. Then doubts will come. Apply this to your practical queries, whatever that you're doing it. I call it as a process called query management. Take out last 6 months queries and tag it. What are the queries which is unnecessarily raised, uncontrollable? What are queries are raised because of XYZ deficiencies, because of our poor data quality, non-submission of documents, like what Dushan said, that not putting those e-Sanchit documents, then try to rectify it. So you should have a scale to see, monitor, saying that how many queries have been reduced. One way the line is there to roar, 3 queries or 6 queries, but why do we give room? Our target is to get through RMS. Our target is to avoid this route. If it gets through, then it's a good learning for you also to understand, because I learned in the last 1 year, the number of queries the officers have raised. That is one way of learning on other people's money. Importers have paid dearly for that, but that should not be the case. Association is taking very stringent measures to address those issues. But from our side, we need to be gearing up in the coming days. As I told you, the new committee which is working on the new customs tariff, they are talking. There are some informations which they are trying to address it on a real-time basis through blockchain. So the HS committee will evolve on a weekly basis. New tariff items will be added weekly basis. How our laws are going to get changed, we do not know. So in that way, to facilitate, and the interpretative rules, they are making some changes. They are going to make some kind of a very simple rule, not to complicate it, and to put everything in a very transparent and a very robust manner. So a lot of changes are likely to happen. To cope up with that change, we need to have these fundamentals very clearly understood. Maybe that will take 2 years, the papers, and then rolling out might take 2-3 more years, till such time that we need to survive with that. So for which legally, how do we handle? Okay, one side we are thorough of all these things. If I am in that same position of yours, today customs officer is not assessing a bill of entry. I wanted those people who are blessed to hear this. Many brokers are not aware and they're making the mistake. This is a one good information which I want to share. I file a bill of entry, I got into a problem in Navasheva. Importer is like, for example, they are in Sanand. Next shipment automatically moves to ICD Kodair. And there, here in Navasheva, your bill got into a problem, classification change, speaking order, all this ruggeds that happened over here. You paid the duty under protest and you cleared it. Okay, dispute happened. All brokers and importers are cleverly what they're doing. Let's go to the next port, thinking that they will be escaping from the scene. But what they fail to understand, if you file in ICD Kodair, RMS bill of entry, with the correct description, with the correct classification, what you wanted, with the correct rate of duty, what you desire, without informing that ICD Kodair DC by way of putting something in the e-Sanchit, it is deemed to be a legal repercussion called forum shopping. You can write down and you can do some research. It is known as forum shopping. Forum shopping means you are not telling the judge that I have been convicted already here. You are telling that I'm a good boy, I'm coming and standing in front of you. So what shrewd and prudent customs officers are doing now, they take that matter, they have a lot of systems, okay, and they take such matters and they go ahead and they will adjudicate with one simple way of misdeclaration. I do not know how many of you in this forum have heard about something known as a DIGIT. Have you ever heard about something known as DIGIT, D-I-G-I-T? Indian National Customs Offense Management System. You heard about this? This is something maintained by our intelligence agencies across India. So you do a mistake here in Navasheva, it is recorded in digits. The ICD Codair officer will be able to see this, and field formations are updating it. This is something, a robust system. You can read about digit collecting data of all the offenses made in India, including passengers. It is equal to, in simple word, I'm sure you all heard about it, no? National Customs Enforcement Network, NCEN. It developed by WCO. It is equal, digit is equal to NCEN. Okay. And it is operated in India. Not many people are aware about it. It is not publicly told. Now, if this is how the network is so sound, digit is sound, your case will be known. The officer will pick it up saying that Navashava you will send a note and it will be deemed as forum shopping, directly misdeclaration. Now you will be perplexed. What did I do? I have done only this simple thing. You're not giving speaking order, you'll be fighting. So what is called for wisdom is brokers need to be understanding. If you are importer saying I'll go to ICD Kodaya, you should go and tell that officer before filing, I have filed a bill of entry, convicted, speaking order, whatever the status, but still I'm entitled for it. Pending that decision, clear my shipment under provisional. You should ask for it. How many people are there and how many people are prepared to do that? This is the correct way of doing it. What do we think? By chance, if it gets through RMS, let's through. It will never happen. If it gets stuck, this is the problem that you will be facing. So keep that forum shopping concept in back of your mind. Also, additional information and the digit. It is at par with NCEN, which I have told you, right? So keep these two things also in addition to your knowledge development. Yeah.
Or otherwise, we can e-sunset our self-declaration about the forum shopping.
Yes. That will also resolve that. In some way that you are, I have already put in. So you are being showing that I'm honest enough to tell you, but still I'm holding to this classification. You assess it. If the officer agrees in that position, it is a complete different jurisdiction. He has all right to agree. He need not to say that Navasheva hold it. I need to follow the same thing. With the justification, he will accept it. Absolutely, you are out from the problem. Tomorrow, post-clearance audit cannot point a finger on you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good information, sir. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
For the information to our members, because much of members not aware about the forum shopping. Dushan bhai.
Yeah, go ahead, Nataraja sir, with your vote of thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. First of all, our sincere thanks to the Customs Council headed by Dushan bhai and convener Mr. Pramod Sonata for their initial initiatives and light on the throw the light on the issues. As usual, our Joshua sir are thrown light on the many issues on the classification. Many times he pointed out the classification is one among the 3 pillars of customs clearance. Without knowing the proper classification, the custom broker is not moving into the other steps. It's true, unless otherwise we are very clever or very sound on the classification, our dream will not fulfill, our execution will not go smoothly. All are aware this particular important significance matter, and the time spending was 120 minutes patiently by 355 people. However, some are left. Thanks for the participation, for your valuable time, for knowing. It is a continuous process. All are aware. It's not rightly our Joshua telling it's not a one-day process. It's a continuous process. So we have to try. Then only we come to what is the error, how to rectify. Unless otherwise we go through the entire concept, we should not know about the what really we want in the classification. Sir, I personally thanks chairman elect and the immediate past chairman Mr. Vijay sir, and our secretary and treasurer, and our colleagues of vice chairmen for their timely joining and encouraging the members who joined the today's meeting. Without the customs committee initiative, it will not happen. Why? for the excellent arrangements. With this, I can conclude today's meeting. We will see next meeting shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Joshua sir. Thank you, all the members. Thank you, each one of you out there, all office bearers and colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.